Julian Carter didn't expect his world to shatter the moment he walked through the front door, but it did. His briefcase hit the marble floor as he froze, watching his daughter Lily, the little girl who hadn't cried in 4 long years, sobbing in the arms of a woman they didn't know. And then came the word that chilled him to the bone. Mom. How could Lily say that when her mother had been gone for so long? What unfolded next is a story of grief, mystery, and the unexpected power of connection. If you believe in love that heals, you'll want to stay for this. Julian Carter wasn't your average single dad. He was a successful real estate mogul, able to negotiate million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. But he couldn't get his daughter to say more than 3 words to him. For 4 years, since his wife Sarah died in that tragic accident, Julian had watched his little girl disappear piece by piece. Not physically, but emotionally. Like Lily had built an invisible wall around her heart, and no matter how hard Julian tried, he just couldn't break through. He hired 17 nannies, 17. Each came with glowing references, decades of experience, and promises they could help a difficult child. But the problem was Lily. She wasn't difficult. She wasn't rebellious or demanding. She was just empty. She would sit by the bedroom window every rainy afternoon, drawing the same picture over and over: a house, a man, a little girl, and a woman standing at the window. But the woman's face was always completely colored in black. Mrs. Doyle, their longtime housekeeper, whispered to Julian one evening, "Sir, this isn't normal. Kids are supposed to cry. They're supposed to get angry, throw tantrums, and demand ice cream for breakfast. But Lily, it was like she carried the weight of the whole world on those tiny shoulders." Julian ran his hand through his hair, staring at a resignation letter from yet another nanny. They all said the same thing. Mrs. Doyle. They said she was unreachable. They said it was like trying to connect with a ghost. But Mrs. Doyle shook her head. "No, sir, she's not a ghost. She's a little girl who's forgotten how to be a little girl. The question is, what happened to make her this way now? Let me introduce you to Elena Moore, 29, with gentle hazel eyes that seem to see right through your soul. She holds a special education degree but has been unemployed for months, waiting for an opening at a children's therapy center. When she saw Julian's desperate ad for a temporary nanny, she almost didn't apply. The pay was generous, very generous. The requirements were simple: watch a well-behaved 6-year-old for a few weeks. No teaching needed, no special skills required. It sounded almost too easy. And Elena had learned that when something sounds too easy, there's usually something hidden beneath. But the rent was due, and her savings were running out. So she put on her best interview outfit and drove to the Carter mansion, expecting to meet a spoiled rich girl who needed someone to follow her around with organic snacks. She wasn't prepared for what she actually found. Julian himself opened the door, and Elena's first thought was that this man looked broken. Despite the expensive suit and perfectly styled hair, there was still something empty in his dark eyes, something that reminded her of her own reflection during the darkest time of her life. "Ms. Moore." I thought Julian's voice was quite professional, but Elena noticed a slight tremor in it. "Thank you for coming. I should warn you from the start, Lily is different from most children." Elena followed him through a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Everything was pristine, expensive, and completely lacking warmth. There were no toys scattered on the floor, no crayon marks on the walls, no evidence that a child really lived here. Different how Elena asked. Although something in her gut already knew the answer, Julian stopped at the foot of an elegant staircase. "She doesn't talk much. She doesn't play. She doesn't do those things." He paused, and for a moment, his carefully constructed exterior cracked slightly. "She never cries. Child psychologists say that's how she copes with the loss of her mother. But it's been 4 years now." Ms. Moore. For years he had watched his daughter become a stranger. They found Lily in the living room, sitting cross-legged on the floor with a box of crayons and paper spread out in front of her. She was small for a 6-year-old, with long black hair falling like a curtain around her face. She didn't look up when they entered. "Lily," Julian said gently, "I want you to meet Elena. She'll spend time with you while your dad is at work." Lily kept coloring, Her movements were precise and methodical. No childish scribbles or wild creativity. Just images drawn with careful strokes she might have made hundreds of times before. Elena knelt beside her but didn't try to start a conversation. Instead, she simply observed, and what she saw made her heart ache with recognition. The house in Lily's drawing wasn't an ordinary house. It was this very house. That man was clearly Julian. That little girl was Lily. But the woman by the window, her face obscured by heavy black crayon marks, was reaching out with one hand while the other seemed to be pointing at something. Lily had drawn a small black shadow hidden beneath what looked like a bed. Elena held her breath. She had seen drawings like this before. During her internship at the Children's Crisis Center, she had learned to understand the silent language of traumatized children, and this drawing was screaming something no one was listening to. "Lily," Elena whispered, "the house you drew is beautiful. Would you like to tell me about the people inside for the first time?" Lily looked up. Her eyes were dark brown like her father's, but held a deep sadness no 6-year-old should carry. She didn't answer Elena's question, but she didn't turn away either. And at that moment, Elena realized Julian Carter hadn't just hired a nanny. He had hired someone to solve a mystery no one else knew about. Elena had no idea that by accepting this position, she was about to uncover a terrifying secret that could change all three of their lives forever. Elena's first day as Lily's nanny began like a chess match between two masters still figuring out each other's moves. She didn't push, didn't ask intrusive questions, didn't try to force Lily into activities or conversation. Instead, she simply existed in the same space. She brought a book and sat in the corner of Lily's playroom while the little girl continued her drawing ritual. But this was what set Elena apart from every other caregiver Lily had ever known. Elena understood the language of silence. On the second day, Elena began reading aloud not from a children's book, but from a story that didn't exist in any published book. A story that seemed to come from deep within her own heart. Once upon a time, Elena began, her voice soft and melodic. There was a little girl who lived in a beautiful house with people who loved her very much. But this little girl has a secret she keeps deep inside because she fears that if she tells anyone, something terrible might happen to the people she loves. Lily's colored pencil stopped moving across the paper. She is very smart and very brave, but she is also very tired of carrying such a big secret all alone. She doesn't know that a secret, when held too long, can become stones in your pocket. At first, you don't notice them, but after a while, they get so heavy that it becomes hard to run, jump, or even smile. Elena paused, pretending to turn the page, but actually looking at Lily's reflection in the window. The child had completely stopped drawing and was intently listening. But one day, she met someone who understood what it was like to carry heavy secrets, and this person said something she had never heard before. "You don't have to carry that stone by yourself. I will help you carry it until you're strong enough to put it down." Julian, listening from the hallway, felt something change in his chest. He had never heard anyone speak to Lily like that before. Not child psychologists with their clinical terms. Not nannies with their forced enthusiasm. Elena spoke to her daughter as if she was talking to an equal, someone worthy of respect and understanding rather than condescension and pity. But Julian remained skeptical. He had been disappointed too many times to easily nurture hope. That afternoon, he cornered Elena in the kitchen. "Ms. Moore, what is your background? Your resume mentions special education, but I wonder how you know things about Lily that experts have missed." Elena finished speaking, her voice gentle but direct. Julian nodded, surprised by her insight. Elena was silent for a long moment, staring out the kitchen window where Lily sat in the garden. "Mr. Carter, have you ever thought that maybe Lily just can't get past the pain of losing her mother? Maybe she's coping the only way she knows how. The question isn't why she's not crying. It's that she's convinced crying isn't safe." Those words hit Julian like a powerful blow. For 4 years, no one had suggested that Lily's silence could be a protective act rather than a pathology. "What are you saying?" he asked, though part of him already knew, and that scared him. "I mean that children don't just stop feeling emotions, Mr. Carter, they hide them when necessary, when they know showing those emotions could lead to consequences they aren't able to handle. Elena turned to face him fully, and Julian was struck by the intensity in her eyes. Your daughter is not broken. She is guarding something. The question is, what is she protecting? And who is she protecting it from in the following days? Something unprecedented began to happen in the Carter family. Lily started to change. Not noticeably, not clearly, but Mrs. Doyle noticed the child sitting closer to Elena during story time. Julian noticed Lily actually looking at Elena when she spoke, instead of looking through her like she did with everyone else. And then, on a rainy, windy Thursday afternoon, the very first real breakthrough happened. Elena was reading another impromptu story when Lily suddenly stood up and went to her art supplies. But instead of using the black-colored pencil she always used to obscure the woman's face, she used yellow, bright sunny yellow. Mrs. Doyle gasped at the doorway as Lily carefully, deliberately colored a sun into the corner of her drawing, the first sun she had drawn in 4 years. Julian, who had rushed home after the meeting and Mrs. Doyle's urgent call, stared at the picture with tears streaming down his face, tears he didn't understand. Wow, he whispered to Elena, how did you do that? But Elena was fully focused on Lily, who was now looking back and forth between the two adults with what might be the beginning of hope. Lily, Elena carefully said, do you want to tell us about the sun in your picture? Lily didn't answer verbally, but she picked up a green-colored pencil and drew something she had never drawn before: grass, flowers, life growing around the house instead of the barren landscape she usually described. Julian sat down, feeling overwhelmed. For 4 years, he focused on making Lily cry, express emotions, and become normal. But Elena had achieved something even deeper. She had given Lily hope. That night, after Lily was asleep, Julian found Elena sitting on the back porch, staring at the starry sky. She looked younger under the moonlight, but there was also something timeless about her, like someone who had seen too much darkness in the world but refused to let it extinguish her light. Elena, he said, sitting down in the chair next to her. For the first time, he didn't call her Miss Moore. The formality between them was slowly fading, though neither was ready to admit what was replacing it. Thank you, he continued. I don't know what you did today, but I haven't seen Lily interested in anything for years. Elena didn't look at him right away. When she did, Julian was surprised to see tears sparkling in her eyes. Mr. Carter, Julian, there's something I want to tell you about myself, something that might help you understand why I seem to know what Lily needs. She took a shaky breath, and Julian instinctively leaned forward, wanting to comfort her but unsure how. I was only 6 years old when my mother died, Elena began, her voice barely a whisper. A car accident. I was sitting in the back seat when it happened. I saw everything. Julian's heart clenched. Suddenly, Elena's intuition about Lily made complete sense. But that wasn't the worst part. Elena continued. The worst part was what happened after I was put into the foster system and the first family I lived with couldn't bear my pain. Every time I cried, they were disappointed. They told me I needed to get over it and be grateful for what I had. So I learned not to cry. I learned to keep everything inside because showing pain only made things worse. Elena's voice was hoarse with emotion. I stayed silent for 3 years. Julian, 3 years. Just like Lily. And everyone said I was handling it well because I wasn't causing any trouble, but I wasn't dealing with anything at all. I was suffocating. Finally, she looked him straight in the eyes, and Julian felt something shift in his chest, something dangerous, wonderful, and terrifying all at once. What changed? He asked. Elena smiled, though tears still streamed down her cheeks. I met someone who understood that silence isn't strength. A teacher at the group home where I finally ended up. She never forced me to talk. She just sat with me. Every day after school, she'd sit in the room and read while I drew, just like Lily does. And one day, she looked at one of my drawings and said, "It looks like a very heavy secret you're carrying. Do you want someone to help you carry it?" Julian recognized the similarity between Elena's story and Lily's. She became your person. Elena confirmed that she had become his person. And she taught me that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to bear the pain in a way that doesn't break you. They sat comfortably silent for a few minutes, both lost in their own thoughts. Julian found himself studying Elena's silhouette under the stars, noticing things he had been too guarded to see before: the gentle curve of her jaw, the way she unconsciously tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she was nervous, the fact that despite everything she'd been through, she still chose kindness over bitterness. "Elena," he finally said, "what you did for Lily today, what you're doing for both of us. I don't know how to thank you." Elena turned to him with a soft smile. "You don't repay Julian's healing. You just give it back." And in that moment, Julian realized something fundamental had changed between them. She is no longer just Lily's nanny. She's becoming something much more dangerous to the tightly controlled world he manages. She's becoming someone he could love. But their moment of peaceful understanding is about to be completely shattered, because at 3 a.m. that night, Lily's fever spiked to 103 degrees, and in her delirium, she finally reveals the secret that has torn their family apart for 4 years. Julian paces frantically while Elena sits by Lily's bedside, carefully placing a cool cloth on the child's burning forehead. They gave her fever medicine, but the temperature wouldn't go down. In fact, it got worse. She started talking nonsense in her sleep, saying things that made Julian's hands tremble and his heart race with fear. "Should we take her to the hospital?" Julian asked for the third time. "Let the medicine work for another 30 minutes, Elena said calmly, though her eyes showed clear worry. "But Julian, you need to listen to what she's saying." Julian stopped pacing. In the sudden silence, Lily's fevered whispers grew crystal clear. "Mom doesn't want Dad to cry. Mom told me to be strong for Dad, but I'm so tired. Mom, I'm tired of pretending to be strong." Julian's face went pale. "Lily never talks about Sarah. Never. The therapist said it was part of her coping mechanism. But now—" "Elena," Julian whispered. "She's speaking as if Sarah is really here, like she's having a conversation with her." Elena nodded seriously. "Julian, I need you to sit down and really listen to what your daughter is telling us." But Lily didn't stop. Her soft voice continued, growing more urgent. "I know. I promised. Mom, I promised I wouldn't say. But it's too hard. Keeping the secret is too hard." Julian sat down in the chair next to the bed. "What secret? What is she saying?" Lily's eyes suddenly opened wide, but she was clearly still delirious from the fever. She looked directly at Elena, but Julian wasn't sure if she really saw her. "Do you see her too?" Lily asked Elena, her voice much older than her 6 years. "Do you see Mom standing in the corner of the room?" Elena followed Lily's gaze to the empty corner, then back to the feverish child's face. "What does Mom want to tell you?" "Sweetheart," she said. She said, "Now it's okay to tell the truth." The girl said, "Dad won't fall apart if I tell the truth." Julian's blood turned to ice. "Lily, honey, what is the truth?" And then, with a voice that would haunt Julian for the rest of his life, Lily told them, "The day Mom died, I hid under the bed. I was going to take a nap, but I heard Mom crying, so I got up to see. But then I heard the bad man's voice, and I was scared, so I hid." Julian's world stopped spinning. "The bad man? Lily, what bad man? The man who came to hurt Mom, the man who pushed her down the stairs, the man who made her bleed." Elena put her hand over her mouth. Julian looked like he was about to be sick. "I saw everything," Lily continued, her voice growing stronger despite the raging fever. "I saw the man push Mom. I saw her fall. I saw the blood. And when Dad came home, I wanted to run to him. But Mom looked at me. She looked right at me under the bed and shook her head. She put her finger to her lips like this." Lily made the universal shushing gesture and mumbled from her hiding place. Julian was breathing heavily. "No, no, no, no. The police said it was an accident. They said Sarah fell down the stairs. They said you heard Dad crying. I heard you tell the paramedics, 'Don't die, don't leave us.' But I couldn't come out. Mom told me to hide. And then they took Mom away. And it was just Mom and me left. Dad was so sad. Dad, so sad. And I thought if I told you about that bad man, you'd be even sadder. So I kept the secret like Mom wanted. Elena is currently sobbing uncontrollably. But Julian looks like he's seeing his daughter for the first time. Lily, he whispers, his voice choked with emotion. You had to endure this alone for 4 years. Mom told me to be strong for her. She said if I cried, you'd cry even more. She said a good daughter doesn't make her dad sadder. So I stopped crying. I stopped being sad. I stopped. I was nothing anymore. Julian collapsed beside the bed, finally understanding the enormous sacrifice his daughter made to protect him. She witnessed her mother's murder and then had to live for 4 years emotionally exiled because she thought her grief would destroy her mother. But I'm so tired. Dad, Lily continued, and for the first time in 4 years, her voice broke with unstoppable tears. I'm really tired of keeping Mom's secret. I'm really tired of pretending to be strong. Can you stop being strong? Julian trembled as he reached toward his daughter, pulling her into his arms for the first time since Sarah's funeral. Oh, my dear daughter, he sobbed. Oh, my little, beautiful, brave girl. Yes, yes, you can stop being strong. You should never have to be strong. That's my job. It should have always been my job. And as Julian held his daughter, finally allowing himself to grieve not only for his wife, but for the 4 years of childhood Lily sacrificed to protect his heart, Elena quietly left the room to call the police because Sarah Carter was not the victim of an accident. She was murdered, and her 6-year-old daughter was the only witness who could bring the killer to justice. But as devastating as this revelation was, it was about to lead to something even more shocking because Elena just realized she knew exactly who killed Sarah Carter, and he had been watching their house for weeks. 2 weeks later, Julian stood inside the police station, watching through the one-way glass as detectives questioned Marcus Webb, Sarah's former business partner, the man she discovered was embezzling money from their joint charity fund, the man who would lose everything if Sarah exposed him, the man who pushed Julian's wife down the stairs and made everyone believe it was an accident. Lily's testimony, gently supported by Elena and the presence of a child psychologist, finally gave the police the missing piece they needed to solve a 4-year-old cold case. But right now, Julian is not thinking about justice. He's thinking about his daughter who cried for 3 hours straight after giving her statement. Not the silent tears of suppressed grief, but the big, messy, healing tears of a child finally allowed to feel. Elena stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand, whispering soothing words, proving to Julian what he had come to understand over the past weeks. Elena Moore was no longer just Lily's nanny. She was the woman who saved them both. Julian found Elena in the hospital cafeteria, staring at a cup of coffee long gone cold hours ago. She looked exhausted, emotionally drained from helping Lily get through the toughest day of her young life. How is she? Elena asked without looking up. Sleeping. Finally, Julian sat down across from her, looking at the dark circles under her eyes. Her hands were slightly trembling from stress and fatigue. Elena, I need to tell you something. She finally met his gaze, and Julian was struck by her beauty even in exhaustion. How strong she was. How much she truly mattered to his world. The night Lily got sick, he began. When you told me about your childhood, I realized something. You didn't just randomly reply to my nanny ad. You had to find us. Lily had to find you. Elena's eyes welled up. Juliet, no. Let me finish. For 4 years, I thought I was protecting Lily by being strong, not crying, not letting her see how losing Sarah destroyed me. But all I did was teach her that emotions are dangerous. Love leads to pain, so it's better not to feel anything at all. Julian reaches across the table and takes Elena's hand. They're warm, steady, and for the first time in years, holding someone's hand no longer feels like betraying the memory of Sarah. You showed Lily that feelings are safe. You showed her that adults can bear her pain without breaking. But Elena, you've done even more than that. You showed me that you can love again without losing the love I had before. Elena holds her breath. Julian, what are you saying? I mean, I'm in love with you. And I'm terrified because the last time I loved someone this much, I lost her. But the thing I fear most is not loving you, letting fear steal the chance to build something beautiful with the woman who brought my daughter back. Elena is crying, but these aren't tears of sadness. They are tears of relief, of hope, of a love she never dared believe she deserved. I love you too. She whispers, "I love you, and I love Lily, and I never thought I'd have a family." Julian stands and moves toward her, pulling her into his arms. When he kisses her, it tastes like tears, hope, and a promise of tomorrow. But the moment is interrupted by a small voice from the cafeteria doorway. "Elena's dad. Why are you kissing Mom?" They pull apart and see Lily standing there in her patient gown, looking more alive and present than Julian has seen her in 4 years. Julian kneels down to his daughter's level, because sometimes, when two people care about each other this much, they show it with a kiss. Do you agree with that Lily considers this with the serious expression she inherited from her dad? Then she looks at Elena with wise, dark eyes. "Elena, if you marry Dad, does that mean you'll stay forever, even if I'm not sick anymore?" Elena kneels beside Julian, taking both their hands in hers. "Lily, there's something very important I want you to know. I'm not trying to replace your mom. No one can do that. Your mom will always be your mom, and she will always love you." Lily nods seriously. "I know, she tells me." But Elena keeps going. "If you and Mom get married, that means you'll have 2 moms. One in heaven watching over you, and one here taking care of you every day. Is that okay?" Lily doesn't answer right away. Instead, she looks back and forth between Julian and Elena, processing this important decision with the seriousness it deserves. Finally, she nods. "Okay, but Elena." "Okay, sweetie. Can I call you Elena so a normal mom doesn't get confused?" Elena bursts into tears. This time they're tears of happiness as she pulls Lily into a tight hug. "I would be honored to be your mom." Elena. 6 months later, the Carter house looks completely different. There are toys scattered across the living room floor. Lily's artwork covers the refrigerator. Not the same dark drawings repeated endlessly, but bright, colorful paintings of their new family. Pictures with sunshine and flowers, and 3 very happy people. Julian comes home and finds Elena and Lily in the kitchen. Flowers everywhere as they try to bake cookies. Lily giggles, really giggles, as she tells Elena about her day at school. "Dad," Lily runs to him, leaving flower handprints on his expensive suit. But Julian doesn't mind. He picks her up and spins her around, delighting in her laughter. "What are my girls up to?" he asks, his heart still pounding every time he gets to say, "My girls. We're making cookies for Mrs. Patterson next door." Lily explains. "She's sad because her cat died, so we want to make her feel better." Julian looks at Elena over Lily's head, and they share a perfect moment of understanding. This is what healing looks like. Not only recovering from injury, but also learning to care for others. Learning to love multiplies when shared instead of hoarded. "So thoughtful," Julian said, setting Lily down. "Why don't you go wash your hands while I talk to Elena's mom for a minute?" Lily skipped happily as Julian pulled Elena into his arms, kissing her tightly, even though she had flowers in her hair. "How did court go today?" she asked as they separated. "Marcus Webb is 25, Julian said, and Elena could see the weight of justice finally being served lifted from his shoulders. "It's over. Elena, finally. It's over." "Good," Elena said firmly. "Now Sarah can rest in peace." Julian nodded, then reached into his coat pocket. "Elena, there's one more thing." He pulled out a small velvet box, and Elena held her breath. "I know we've talked about this," Julian said, dropping to one knee right in their flower-filled kitchen, "but I want to do it properly. Elena Moore, you came into our broken lives, and you didn't try to fix us. You just loved us until we remembered how to love ourselves." Elena's hand trembled as Julian opened the box to reveal a beautiful yet simple diamond ring. "Will you marry me? Will you be my wife and the mother of Lily and the heart of this family we're building together?" "Yes," Elena whispered. Then louder, "Yes. Of course. Yes." Julian slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her again. And this time, they were interrupted by Lily's joyful scream from the doorway. "You're getting married. You're really getting married." She rushed to them, and they embraced her in a 3-person hug Julian had never dared to hope for. 1 year later, on a beautiful spring morning, Julian and Elena exchanged vows in their backyard garden. It was a small ceremony, just close friends, Mrs. Doyle, who cried throughout, and Lily, who was both flower girl and ring bearer with utmost seriousness. But the most beautiful moment came at the reception when Julian saw Lily sitting quietly alone, drawing in her ever-present sketchbook. "What are you working on?" "Sweetheart," he asked, sitting beside her on the garden bench. Lily showed him the picture of their house drawn with meticulous attention to every detail, as she always did. But this version was completely different from the dark images of her past. This house was surrounded by flowers and sunlight. The three figures, Julian, Elena, and Lily, were holding hands and smiling. And on the window of the house, though very faint, unmistakably, was the gentle silhouette of a woman raising her hand in blessing. "That's Mom," Lily explained matter-of-factly. "She's happy because we're happy. She told me about my dream last night." Julian's eyes welled up, but these were beautiful tears, healing tears. "She's happy," he agreed, pulling his daughter close. "And you know what else? What you don't have to keep any secrets anymore. Lily, from now on, we share everything. The happy things, the sad things, and everything in between. Deal?" Lily thought for a moment, then nodded firmly. "All right, Dad." Elena beamed as she approached them in her simple white dress, and Julian's heart still stopped every time he saw her. Every single time. "What are my two favorite people talking about?" she asked, sitting down next to Lily. "Mom said she's happy," Lily reported, showing Elena the drawing. Elena studied the picture closely, then looked at Lily with the special understanding that made Julian fall for her from the very start. "Of course she's happy." Elena said she was witnessing her little girl grow up surrounded by people who loved her for exactly who she was. "That's all any mother truly wishes for." Lily smiled, one of those smiles that truly lit up her whole face, then leaned into Elena. "Mom, Elena." "Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for teaching me how to cry." Elena's eyes welled with tears as she kissed the top of Lily's head. "Thank you for teaching me how to love." Julian wrapped his arms around both his daughters. And as the sun set over the garden party, he realized this is what happiness looks like. It's not the absence of sorrow, but the presence of love strong enough to hold both joy and sadness together. This story reminds us that healing doesn't always come in loud declarations or grand gestures. It often arrives in a whisper, a child's tear, or the warmth of a stranger's embrace. Through Julian's heartbreak and Lily's silent suffering, we saw how grief can close a heart, but love, unexpected, uninvited, can gently open it again. If this story moved you as deeply as it did us, please show your support for Julian and his brave little daughter, Lily. They've come so far, but their journey toward healing is just beginning. Do you think Julian is ready to let someone new into their lives should he allow himself the chance to love again, not just for himself, but for Lily? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe in the power of second chances, of quiet kindness transforming broken hearts, then join our growing community by subscribing to Touching Tales Hub. Every story here is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, light finds a way in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because somewhere, someone needs a story like this today.